plans changed. We were going to keep on cutting beans, but we got a heavy dew out here and we got cloud cover, and that's not going to make for a real fast drying of the soybeans. So we're going to switch over real quick. We're going to start planting wheat today. We were going to do that tomorrow, but we're going to swap things around a bit and go ahead and put some wheat in the ground today. So I'll see you in the field. Alright guys, the 2022 wheat crop is officially underway. We are putting seed in the ground. Like I mentioned earlier, we're planting a day earlier than what we wanted to just because of the weather conditions out here. You know, it's about 11 o'clock and it's still cloudy. Outside, still damp, so we would really be delayed in cutting beans. So we're trying to be as efficient as possible. So we geared up real quick to get some wheat planted, and Kelly and Zach are, while I'm planting the wheat, Kelly and Zach are defoliating the rest of the cotton with a second pass, getting that out of the way, and then when they get done with that, they'll be spraying burn down behind where I planted. Today we got about 66 acres that we can go ahead and get planted. We're planting behind soybeans that we harvested last week. Then all the rest of my wheat is planned to go behind our cotton crop, and well, we haven't started picking cotton yet, so we can't get that planted. And depending on how late it is whenever we get done picking our cotton and what the weather conditions are will determine if we're actually even able to get any more wheat planted this year or not. Because I have planted wheat late before, and I've planted wheat in the mud before, and when you put those two together, it doesn't make for a pretty outcome. So if we're looking at those kinds of conditions, whenever we can get started planting wheat again, I don't know if we'll plant any. But as early as this wheat right here is getting planted, we should be guaranteed of at least getting a real good stand. Not gonna be guaranteed getting a good crop, but you can't make a crop without a stand, so it should at least get off to a good start. And right now, this time of year, that's what's key. You see that right there? It's an armadillo hole. This whole bottom out here is littered with them. All of our fields are littered with them. It's one of the downsides of our soil health practices is, building up all the bugs and critters and everything else in the soil that the armadillos love to feed on. Anybody wants to come out here and hunt them or trap them or do whatever, I will gladly welcome you to our farm and show you all the places where we got problems with them. I absolutely despise an armadillo and what they do to our farms. Armadillos ain't nothing but a possum on a half shell. Oh, just hit another hole. Good grief. And with a 20-foot drill, you find all the armadillo holes out here. I don't know how we haven't broken a wheel before running off in them. Anybody got any tips on eradicating them from the fields? Be sure to leave your suggestions down in the comments, because I'm open to all ideas right now. Here in West Tennessee, our wheat planting window typically begins October 15th. That's what the Hessian fly free date is. And typically October 15th is usually, historically, when we're supposed to get our first frost. Well, see, I'm in short sleeves today and we haven't come. A lot of guys have already put quite a bit of wheat in. A lot of guys like planting early October. Not me. There's several reasons for that. Ideally, what I consider the optimum time to plant wheat is the week of Halloween. Well, we're the week before Halloween, so we're a few days earlier, but next week my plan is we're going to be picking cotton hard all week and not going to have time to plant wheat, so we're getting this knocked out. I feel like that week before Halloween gives you a good balance of being able to get your plant weeded early enough to where you're planting in generally good conditions, a little bit warmer conditions, drier conditions. You can get that wheat up to a real good stand, and you can get some decent growth and some tillering on the plant before it gets dormant. And then like I said, that week of Halloween, I feel, is the sweet spot. It's not too early to where you get too much growth. Your wheat gets too far advanced to where you need to be more concerned about a late freeze in the spring. But it's early enough to where you generally get a good stand. Some of the problems I've seen with some ultra early planted wheat into September, early October, is that it will grow too much in the fall. It will be too far along, and then when spring comes around and it breaks dormancy, it's at an increased risk of being damaged by a late freeze. I've seen that happen several years. When it comes to a winter wheat crop, we generally don't have to worry about yields being reduced to drought, because during the winter we normally have excess moisture here in West Tennessee, so drought's not a concern. But what can be the big unplanned yield robber that can severely damage your wheat is a late freeze in the spring, where you get a late frost there in later part of April, when the wheat is vulnerable. When the wheat is young, its cold tolerance is very good, but then as it gets older and gets more mature, its cold tolerance drops down significantly, and then when the potential head gets above ground level, then it starts being susceptible to any kind of freeze or frost damage. And the higher that head gets as it moves its way up through the stalk before it emerges, the farther it gets, the more and more susceptible it becomes to being damaged by low temperatures. So that's one reason that I will not plant wheat in early October. And I planted wheat earlier than this, usually in that October 12th, October 15th range, and it got good growth, but I really didn't see any yield advantage over planting it, the last week of October. It got ready a little bit earlier, but I didn't see any kind of yield advantage. I have seen a yield disadvantage from planting late into November, but that really can't be avoided when you plant a big part of your wheat behind your cotton crop. A big part of the farmers in West Tennessee will plant their wheat behind the corn crop that's been harvested, and that's something that I will not do at all, because I think you're setting yourself up for an automatic yield penalty of usually around 5 bushels an acre by planting behind the corn crop. And that's because you're planting a grass after another grass, which is what corn is. It's a grass. And there's a pretty severe nitrogen penalty that you can pay, because all of that corn residue has to break down, and in order for the microbes to break all that residue down, it requires nitrogen. Well, grasses love nitrogen, corn loves nitrogen, wheat loves nitrogen. And if all the microbes in the soil are using up the nitrogen to break down the corn residue, that leaves less nitrogen available for your wheat crop. And ultimately, that's what really hurts your yields the most. You have to put out more nitrogen than you normally would, say following a soybean crop or a cotton crop. But even adding that extra nitrogen still does not completely cover the fact that the microbes are going to use that nitrogen up to decompose the corn residue. And when you got yields like we had this year, a lot of fields were doing 200 bushels plus. That's a lot of residue to break down. I personally don't like planting a crop and then automatically having to deduct right there on the front end, having to deduct some yield because I'm, planting it behind a crop that it's not going to do as well behind. But a lot of people, they like planting behind corn because they can get in there in early October and go ahead and get their wheat planted and be assured of getting a good stand. So it does have its benefits, but year in, year out, I think I'm going to make my most profit, and be most successful planting late October behind cotton and soybeans. Some years doesn't work out that way, but you take a 10-year average, I believe that'll work out in my favor all the time. Armadillos are becoming as bad of a pandemic as pigweeds are. Well, we've covered our first 26 acres, and I think we're just about out of seed. So let's check the box, see what it looks like. I still got a little bit left in there. And we're out on those. So this side is putting out just a fraction more than the other side. So I'll shuffle a little bit of seed around, and then we'll go seed tender, fill up, and I'll do a little bit of tweaking on the rates here. All right, that shows we planted 26.8 acres. Monitor, my tractor shows we planted right at 26 acres. So let's figure out what our rate is, do double checking. I had it calibrated for about 141 to 143 pounds per acre. We've used up about 4,100 pounds, so 4,100 pounds divided by 26.8 equals 152 pounds per acre. So we need to cut down the rate about 2/32 of an inch. I know you can't see it, but it's set on 26/32 of an inch. So I need to close it down 2/32, so we'll close it down to 28/32. And that should look like this one's opened up just a hair. Yeah, this one's opened up a little bit while we've been planting. All right, I got 5,600 pounds left. Drill will hold about 4,100 pounds. We'll have a little bit left over. last video, Dylan Joyce was talking about his seed tender. He said that was one of the only things he's ever bought brand new. And it might not look like it, but we actually bought ours brand new also. I think it was in 2010 when we bought it. We actually ordered it from Crustbuster, and we got a discount on it because we allowed them to use that seed tender at the Mid-South Farm and Gin show that year. And then when the show was over, we picked it directly up at the convention center in Memphis and brought it home. So we got a nice little discount on it. But yeah, we've been using it 11 years now or so, and it's been a good one for us. For what they actually are, they're a pretty pricey little piece of equipment. I think that one that we got was, with the scales on it, was somewhere around $12,000. I know they got gone up a lot more since then. That one right there is a 160 bushel model. I'd like to have a bigger one. I know they make a 240 bushel model, and then some manufacturers make like a 300 bushel model, but I don't, let's see, 300 bushels at 60 pounds a bushel. I mean, you're talking about 18,000 pounds behind you know, single rear wheel, 3/4 ton truck. I really don't want to haul that much weight around. I know trucks got the power to pull it, but that ain't something I really want to do. The seed we're planting is Pioneer 25R40. If you remember from wheat harvest, this is some of the seed that we saved. Really high on this variety. It's been really awesome. And if I wanted to, I couldn't even buy this variety anymore because it's not in production. But it's really awesome for us. I mean, really high yields, very consistent year in and year out. And you know, this is seed that we saved, and we took it up to Greenfield to the seed cleaner and had them clean it for us. You don't know how that process works. I did a video a couple months ago on how a seed cleaner works. If I remember, I will post a link right here. Be sure to check it out if you're interested. You get the rest of this 4,000 pounds of seed in and get ready for another 27, 28 acres. All right, we're back on the road now. Anyway, I said earlier that we're planting, our target rate's about 141, 143 pounds per acre at the seed size of this variety, which is right around 10,500 seeds per pound. You know, we're shooting for a population of right around 1.5 million. Which is, this early in the season, is just fine to get the amount of tillers that we want. Each tiller produces one head of wheat, and ultimately that's one of the biggest factors in driving yield, is having enough tillers out there to produce the wheat. So 1.5 million is what we're shooting for now. However, as we get into our later plantings after cotton, probably going to be doing quite a bit of planting there in November. Then, you know, the wheat's not going to have as much time to create extra tillers, so we'll have to put out more seeds per acre. And, you know, just depending on when we plant in November, you know, we could be targeting, you know, 1.7, 1.8, close. So, you know, we're going with a lower rate of seed right now on 70 acres, and that's going to come in handy because it means that we will have enough seed to maybe potentially go to a higher rate than what we were planning on our later planted to get the amount of tillers that we want out here. So anyway, I know I've given y'all a lot of agronomy lessons for today, and not everybody's watching for the agronomy lessons, but you know, hopefully that gives you just a little bit of the insight into the science behind crop production. It's not like that governor of New York City or somebody in New York City said earlier this year, you know, all farming is just digging a hole, putting the seed in the ground, and then harvesting it. There's a lot more details into growing a successful crop than that. But just to put it in perspective on our other crops, you know, right now we're shooting for about 1.5 million seeds per acre on our wheat crop. When we're planting our cotton crop, you know, we target about 37,500 seeds per acre. But wheat is used in a lot of different products, and it's got to be produced. So as long as Americans are eating products made with wheat, I'm gonna keep on growing it. How's that guy caught up to me? They must have gotten all the cotton defoliated, and he's just about done with the wheat burned down behind me. Well guys, we're on the home stretch for today. We're not going to quite get done with this wheat. I'm going to run out of seed with about 3 acres left. One of the gates is a little loose and it tends to work itself open. And I just realized that on the last load. So we're going to run a little bit short of seed on getting this done, but ain't a big deal. Whenever we get back to planting wheat after cotton harvest, I got some more wheat in this area to drill, and I'll just come up here and finish this field up then. So anyway, it's about 10 o'clock. Well, we had a pretty good day today. Had something coming up and had to go back to the office for a couple hours this afternoon. Otherwise we would have been done with this a few hours ago, but it is what it is. I reckon I'll go ahead and end this video here. I'm ready to get on home and get some food in my belly. I'm getting a little hungry. So anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Be back tomorrow from the soybean field, and then we're this close to picking some cotton. I know y'all looking forward to it. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you in the morning.